Good morning and welcome. Didn't take long, Deb. Deb to me. Good morning and welcome. Oh, for some reason. One moment. Good morning and welcome. For some reason. Sorry, keep them chatting, Deb.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Sorry, keep them chatting.
Welcome to this morning's YouTube Live. It seems that we've managed to get it on coming up on Bec's computer as well.
Sorted.
So yeah, that was a little bit confusing.
Apologies. Suddenly we could hear us talking over on my laptop and it looked like I was on the live stream.
Real life
issues. Yeah, this is what happens when you go live, is that, you know, life happens. What I was going to say was good morning, welcome. Nice to see you all. So let's go again, shall we?
Yes.
It's 10 o'clock and we are ready. We were just having a chat just before we came on and we kind of said, oh, let's press the live button at 9:59 because it takes forever sometimes to go on. So we dutifully pressed it at 9:59 and what do you know? It came straight on. This is how these things work, isn't it? We were talking to someone yesterday about kind of mountains and things that get you stuck. And I'd commented on a post to say the thing that I find, you know, is my mountain, the thing that I kind of get stuck with quite often is technology. Hey, yes. Presto, yeah. We just proved it.
We have had a few technical issues.
So there we are. That's that one passed and we're back on and ready to go. So Deb, what have we got coming up?
Okay, so we wanted to tell you this morning about our next 90-day challenge that we've got coming up that we are really, really, really excited about. We've just finished doing a free 5-day self-love challenge and we were just blown away by the interaction, by the amazing people that joined in with us and by all the things that came out of that. We've started a fantastic community, got a lovely set of people, you know, so that was absolutely great. And off the back of that, we are moving into a 90-day challenge. Now it's going to be a little bit different to the 5-day challenge because we're not going to challenge you every single day for 90 days.
We thought that might be a little bit too much.
But if you know us at all, you'll know that we absolutely love challenges. And personally, for me, that was the way, getting playful out in the world, challenging myself with, you know, can I do this and what happens here and what happens if, and kind of it was my way, I think, of questioning what was going on in my mind, testing, you know, what was true and what wasn't true, what was actually possible and what wasn't. So, and to me, I think it opens your mind, it kind of wakes you up to a deeper truth of who you are when we play in this way with our humanity. It kind of brings us into connection with our spirituality as well. It kind of shows us this amazing place of balance where these two things come together beautifully. So if you want to know more about the 90-day challenge that we're doing, and it's called It's All About Relationships, we would absolutely love to have you join us on that. There is a link under this video, I think, that you can go and look and find out a little bit more about that challenge. And we are also having a retreat that's kind of connected to that, but doesn't have to be. So on the page, you'll find out a little bit about the retreat too. We are incredibly visible. We're around everywhere. So if you have any questions at all, please do feel free to ask us. Because you know what it's like when you try to tell people about something that you know about, you miss the most obvious thing. So,
which is what we did that last night.
We did.
We were on our webinar last night and we were saying, you know, oh, this is our 90 days coming up. This is the retreat. This is what's happening. This is join us. And then we were about 2 minutes away from finishing and somebody went, what's the price of the 90? Oh, yeah, that's kind of key information. So because we forgot last night, we'll share that today. So the 90 days is £150. And we are doing, if you go and have a look at the page, which like Deb said, we'll share the link, there is some information about the retreat. And if you wanted to do both together, if you want to kind of pay for the 90 days and pay and come on the retreat, we're actually doing a special offer. So you actually get the 90 days effectively half price if you do both. So yeah, go pop along and have a look. But like Deb says, we're extremely visible. So if there's something you did want to ask and we've forgotten to mention it here, do shout up. up, because
Yeah.
we know how easy it is to forget the obvious things that you want to know about.
Absolutely. So any questions, feel free to ask. And we do payment plans as well.
Yes, that's true.
A problem, so.
Yeah, so we love to be as helpful as we can around that kind of stuff. The other thing that we wanted to just share before we kind of dive into what we've been learning and living and our topic for this week, we have had about a month ago, we switched our mailing list onto a totally different platform. And in the midst of doing that, as I mentioned, technology seems to be my mountain that I get the most stuck with. We had a couple of little technical issues.
No, we didn't. We had some huge technical issues.
Trying to play it down.
Oh, sorry. Nothing much at all.
So what seems to have happened is that some people that probably were on the mailing list have dropped off and may not know that they've dropped off. You may not have noticed. So what we're doing is kind of encouraging you, if you think you're on our mailing list and you're not sure, the way to know is that you will have had an email from us this morning. I think it was called What Do You Avoid? That was our newsletter. If you received that, then you're on our mailing list, all good. If you haven't, or you can't find it in your junk mail or anything like that, you're probably not on our mailing list. So we would encourage you to go ahead and sign back up again if you want to join us. And if you didn't think you were on our mailing list at all and want to be, you can sign up. We'd love to have you.
I did put a link underneath this video.
I was just going to say there'll be a link.
So you should be able to find that. But again, if it's not obvious, please do ask.
Please shout.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'd love to have you, and we share lots of helpful kind of videos, blogs, information about what we've got coming up. So yeah, join in with our mailing list if you'd like to do that. It would be great to have you.
We've just asked on our Facebook group, in the Facebook group, we have just asked people to put forward, we're just about to make a brand new video series for you.
Yeah.
And we asked people what topics they would like. So there's just a poll going on there. So any minute now, we're going to make some new videos. So if you want your say on, what you would like those videos to be, pop into our Facebook group, which is Dare to Be You, with a purple heart at the end of it, and have your say.
Yeah. So we'd love to see you over on the mailing list too.
Yeah.
So, Deb, what have we been learning this week?
So, my learning this week, I kind of mentioned this a little bit last night in the webinar that we were doing. But my learning this week was around trust. And it was kind of one of those things. It's one of those, it was a little bit of I'd not seen it that way. And yet it was so obvious once I did see it. Because I realized that I was actually having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about trust, and we were talking about trusting people. And I kind of realized that the way human beings have trust set up is that it's like, if we say we trust somebody, what we're actually saying is that I trust you to do what I think you should do, or I want you to do. And it's kind of like, so when we put our trust, if we kind of tell somebody, I'm in a relationship, and if I say to my partner, oh, I trust you, it's like putting something onto him. It's like, putting a real heavy burden onto him that he is going to act in a certain way. And I don't know about you, but when I've kind of got all these restrictions about how I should act and what I should do, it doesn't feel good. And what I really saw was that what we're saying is that I'm putting it on you to do what I think you should do. Go out and have a great life. And it's not nice. It's not a nice feeling at all. And one of the things that I really, really saw around my relationship was when I stopped having that need for him or anyone in my life, when I stopped having a need for people to act in a certain way, I could just love people. And I kind of do mean that across the board. People that you have a 2-minute interaction with at the checkout at the supermarket, or people that are in your life a lot. Ruth, my son, people around me. I find it's much, much nicer to love that person, and the trust that I have in people now is that they will do what's right for them, and that they have wisdom. And it feels so, just kind of seeing that, I just seeing that in that way. Oh yeah, we have this trust thing all wrong mostly.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because it was something I saw I think it's a couple of years ago now. It was something I really saw, that we've built it up that there's a connection between how someone behaves and whether or not whether we say we trust them or not. Because I hear people, like I've had people say to me, oh, you know, how does your relationship work? Does your partner trust you? Do you trust your partner? And what I really saw in that was what they were saying to me is, like Deb said, does your partner behave in the way you want them to? And do you behave in the way your partner wants you to? And I've really seen that if I say, oh, I trust my partner, there's no guarantee in that he's going to behave the way that I might have it set up that he should, and vice versa. He might be going out there saying, oh, I trust Bec, I trust what she, you know, I trust that she'll do the things I think she should, and that doesn't actually guarantee that I will. And like you were saying, it puts a lot of pressure on to behave in a certain way. And even with that pressure, it doesn't guarantee that we will behave that way. It
almost feels like when we're in those pressures, it's almost harder to you know, I think when our mind is clear and we're just in a good place and we haven't got those restrictions on ourselves and we're not holding those restrictions to other people, life is just lighter and we manage to flow with what is going on much more easily. And somehow it is one of those weird paradoxes where we're way more likely to act in a beneficial way to everybody when we're in that lighter, freer place. And to be absolutely honest, if someone really doesn't want to be in a relationship with me, why would I want to hold them to that?
Yeah, that's hugely, I know we've both seen some stuff around that. It's like, if we're in a relationship with someone and they genuinely don't want to be in a relationship with us, there comes a point where you do kind of say, why would I want them to stay with me? When we really see kind of love in its purest form, if I purely love my partner and he does not want to be in a relationship with me, that pure love says to me, then don't hold him to that. Don't, you know, because why would I want to? If that pure love is kind of, if I'm just loving him for who he is, and who he is somebody that wants to be in a different relationship or wants to be single, that pure love wouldn't want to hold him in a relationship with me. That kind of purity of who we are. And I see that more and more when I kind of, like Deb says, learning about kind of what trust really is. Because it isn't saying, oh, I trust you, therefore you'll behave in this way. It's trusting that
saying,
person.
I'll trust your behaviour no matter what it is, and I'll trust your wisdom.
Yeah, if I can see that I have innate wisdom and everybody else has innate wisdom, I can trust that we can behave from our innate wisdom, and that is absolutely the right thing for each of us to be doing.
And I think it kind of also starts with knowing, you know, when we did the 5 days of self-love, we touched on this place within us where we are okay. You know, there's something about us, something deeper. We love being human. I love my human side, but we look very much at the kind of the three aspects of human beings, if you like. We kind of have this human side, we have this spiritual side, and we have this beautiful place where they come together. And they're not exactly separate things, but, you know, if we separate them out in that way and kind of seeing that there is a place within us where we're always okay. And in a way, that's kind of full circle back around, because that's what we play around with in our challenges and what we do. And seeing that, for me, kind of playing in that way, in quite a safe, playful way, seeing my okayness brings me full circle back around to knowing that I can trust myself because there's something in me that's always okay. I can trust myself to behave in the right way, if you like. And so it's a whole circle thing, isn't it? And it's that paradox where when we do that and we let go in that way, we are most likely to stay in a healthy, loving relationship.
That's, to me, that's the beauty of this. And one of the things, we had a conversation earlier in the week with the three of us were talking, me, Deb and Lucy, and we were talking about how when we have these conversations, we can really see that. And then sometimes we can go to that place where we try and trick the system. Oh, yes, I totally trust my partner. And I'm going to behave better and they're going to behave better now. That doesn't work. And yet when we genuinely see it, because of how this is set up, when we genuinely see that, when we really see the innate wisdom in ourselves and others and know that we can trust that, and whatever behaviors come are perfectly okay. And when we really see that for ourselves, the natural byproduct is that happier, healthier relationship, isn't it? And that's incredible.
Which again is why we play around with it, because sometimes when we're playing, when we're kind of challenging ourselves, when we're doing this, we have these aha moments, and when we see something a little bit like I saw around trust, we were playing around and suddenly, oh, that's that. Something occurs to us and we see it, and then things change within us.
Yeah, which actually leads really nicely into my learning for this week, because it was off the back of the challenge last week. One of the challenges last week was do something different, and this week on a Monday morning I get a newsletter from Michael Neal, and I often read his blog and very occasionally click on the video. What I've never ever done before is clicked on the podcast. And this week I did, because I was like, oh, I'm in there,
I'm doing something different
mode. Yeah, I'm thinking of different things. And so I clicked on his podcast, and what it takes you to his website, and there's actually about maybe 10 podcasts, the most recent ones that are just there in a long list. And it turns out the way he does his podcast, they're what he calls espresso size, mini coffee. So they're about between 5 and 10 minutes long, and it fits perfectly to listen to that while I'm kind of getting ready after I've had my shower and doing my hair and that kind of thing. So what I've ended up doing the last 3 mornings is listening to an espresso size podcast from Michael Neal, and they're really. He really speaks in a way that is quite, I'm a bit of a Michael Neal junkie. He really speaks in a way to me that's really quite simple, and yet leaves you kind of going, oh yeah, interesting. And it then ruminates for me through the day. And so I've listened to 3 this week. So I thought I would just share a snippet from each of those that's really kind of jumped out.
An even smaller espresso.
Yes, a mini espresso from Bec. So the first one, he was talking about kind of what he terms it's in the feeling. And I know this is something we've had masses of conversations about, around what we share and how this understanding works isn't in the words. When we share what we're sharing, when we were just talking then about what Deb was learning, what we're pointing to here isn't in the words. So if you're listening to what we're saying, if I take Deb's example and you hear the word trust, right, I know what trust is. I've got this one. I see this one. It's not what we're pointing to, and what Deb was saying there isn't in the word trust, and it isn't in what you've already got set up, or what any of us have got set up as what trust is. It's what's in the feeling. When we really hear, I call them my heart ears. I've got intellectual ears that talk to my brain, and I've got heart ears. I've got ears that listen from a different place. And something, when we have these conversations, something in us starts to resonate, and we hear from our heart ears. And we know we're doing that when we're in that feeling. And that feeling is something that, for me, it always feels lighter. It always feels more peaceful, more joyful, more natural. And it's that feeling when we have these conversations that points us and tells us, right, we're on the right track here. We're heading down the right road of truth.
We have that kind of feeling, I think, sometimes when we have insights. And the interesting thing then is, and an insight doesn't necessarily have to be a big thing, but something occurs to us. We see something different. And interestingly, then, when we try to put it into words, the words that come out of our mouths are something we've said a million times before, and people kind of look at us, well, that's nothing new. And it's because the new thing isn't in the words, it is in something beyond the words. And very often when we listen, like maybe you're listening to this today and you might have an insight around something when you're listening, and then if you listen back again, you can't even hear what it was you thought you heard. And that is because you've heard it with those heart ears. There weren't words, there was something, a feeling happened for you. And we're not even necessarily always aware of that, are we? But it is a beautiful thing that can happen in that connection.
Yeah, so that was Monday's podcast. It was all about kind of, it's in the feeling, not in the words, and not in the kind of debate and dialogue that we can sometimes get into around how life works. So it's look for the feeling. So that was a really great start to my Monday. Yesterday's podcast was what he talked about before the therefore.
Oh,
and that,
yes.
always, that always comes out as a mouthful, because that feels like 3 words that don't quite make a sentence. So I'll expand a bit on what that means. He was having a conversation with his daughter, who was doing some religious studies at her school. And she was saying something about not being sure she really believed in God as a kind of concept, as a kind of being that is, controlling everything. And so they then talked a little bit about spirituality and kind of the difference between religion and, say, spirituality. And what they kind of came to the conclusion was that religion gives you some therefores. This is how life works. Therefore, behave in this way. Follow these rules. Don't do these things. Do these things. Do it this way. And spirituality, and kind of exploring in the way we do, and the kind of understanding we talk about, doesn't put the therefore on it. It says this is how life works. And there's this kind of gap, and you can do what you want with that. You can just simply see that life works this way, and there's nothing else for you to do. And what happens is then individually we kind of take what we need from that. We live from that in whatever way makes sense to us. And there's no concrete, absolute boxed in therefore. And it's a really, for me, actually, I came from a religious background, and we were brought up in a kind of church community. And for me to kind of then explore that and go, oh, so some of the kind of things I'd been living by, rules and things I'd been living by, are human. They're kind of man-made. They worked for somebody somewhere once, but it doesn't have to be my experience of life. And it was a really beautiful, I've heard, it's not an idea that therefore isn't an idea. I've heard it before. It wasn't a new idea. Thank you. Yeah, I was losing the words there. It wasn't an entirely new idea, but kind of hearing it again was just a really nice, sweet reminder that what we point to here is simply how life works. And what you want to do with that and where you go with that is entirely yours. Because we massively point to the kind of spiritual understanding of how life works and the human experience that we have. And the human experience is yours to do with, however you like, from that understanding of how we work spiritually. So that was really nice yesterday to kind of be pointed back to that again.
What I'm hearing in that is that we can trust our own wisdom after that. And I think, all religions started with the best of intentions. Well, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
It seems that, like you say, somebody saw how life works. And I think what happens to us as human beings, like when we have an insight, what you notice is your behavior changes. There's nothing you have to do. You have an insight and your behavior changes because it just makes sense. It's almost like you can't do the thing you were doing before because something within you has changed and you're doing something different. And you can really see the merit and the benefit of that. That is like, oh my gosh, if everybody saw this and everybody did this, they would be better. So with the best of intentions, we try to tell people, and we tell people the therefore.
Yeah.
And we mean therefore it in a nice way. And what I really see more and more with what we're sharing is that sometimes that just doesn't make sense to other people, and sometimes that isn't right for other people. Our therefores aren't somebody else's perfection. It's not going to work for them. So it is really, really good to, as best we can, to stick to before the therefore. But as human beings,
we like our therefores.
We love our therefores.
But it's just nice to be constantly kind of reminded
and
that
also, I think the therefores can be useful. Like if you're in a place, I know that times in my life when I've been really, really struggling, and it's been really helpful to just borrow somebody else's wisdom, borrow their therefore for a bit.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. It was absolutely about remembering how life works. And then kind of, if you want a therefore, know that it doesn't have to be fixed, and know that if somebody else's therefore doesn't make sense, you don't need it.
You don't have to take that on. If it does make sense for a bit and it's helpful for a bit, use it.
Yeah.
And then again, get playful with what if and playing around and questioning and learning to know yourself.
Yeah. Which interestingly was his podcast this morning, was about
like Michael Neal knows us.
Was all about kind of who am I? And he was kind of pointing to who you are as a truth, as in the kind of creative essence of who we are, this spiritual energy that sort of seems to take form as human beings. And then he was kind of talking about how we can have kind of characteristics or personalities, and the invitation was there to, a lot like we do on the challenges, is kind of get to know your personality and who you are in that sense, but also a little bit like we just said there, knowing that that's not fixed, knowing that that can change, knowing, because he gave an example of how he used to be someone that was shy, and so he didn't like parties, until there was an occasion where he went to a party and had a blast. And then
wasn't shy and enjoyed it.
So I'm not a person that's shy and doesn't like parties. Sometimes I'm shy and don't want to be at a party, and sometimes I can have a blast at a party. And it's that when we take something off the table, somehow our human experience isn't quite so lighthearted and fun.
Yeah, we lose something in that, don't we? And it is, keeping it all there and knowing we can be all things.
All things at any time.
And that's, it's fun getting playful with that, isn't it? Kind of seeing, investigating, and definitely knowing yourself. And part of the challenge, the 5-day challenge that we did, was kind of getting to know, one of the things we asked was, what was your guilty secret? What makes you you? And we all have those little quirks and those little things that are ours. And for me, what I find through these challenges and playing is, there's some things I kind of want to keep. There's some things I kind of like, and which
I think leads us really nicely into our living for this week. I think we might share what we got up to over the weekend.
So we decided to go to a car boot sale at the weekend, and we had some real fun. Because one of the things that I'm going to do starting on the 1st of August is I'm going to do a 3 months not buying any new clothes. And part of I can buy second hand, so we went to kind of investigate our local car boot sale to see to see what was there, and we had some real fun, and I managed to get some amazing, wonderful things for my little grandson. Car boots are an absolute, they're a gold mine if you've got a new baby or a small child. They have amazing things, and they're practically giving them away to you. So it was really, really great to kind of recycle some stuff, because what I've seen with my living, one of the things that we talk about some of the times is this place where we step up and take responsibility, whilst knowing we're not responsible at all. And I've seen an awful lot on Facebook and seen an awful lot of discussions about the world that we live in, about our environment, and about how as human beings we don't look after this planet. And so I kind of thought, I want to step up and take responsibility a little bit more for looking after the things that I have been given as I am a human being while I'm in this human form to look after for a little while. So I thought I would like to kind of step up with that. So that's why I decided to do this challenge for not buying anything new, because I can see how much we consume things we don't need. And I just think it would be nice to kind of put the brakes on. I am a consumer, and I think it's really important as human beings. I like the flow of money. I like that things come, things go, but I do think we can overly consume sometimes. So I'm playing around. This is I'm playing around again with what I can see around that. So and we had a blast. We got some amazing things.
We did, and we're gonna do the challenge together. It's just a personal challenge, just kind of for fun, to see what we can see. And we've already had a couple of conversations about kind of how that fits with, if we're not going to buy anything new, we're going to kind of try and source things from secondhand shops, or if we've got stuff that we can actually kind of tidy up and reuse and things like that. So we're going to play around with that. But we had some conversation before we started around, well, how does that work? Because there's obvious things like, I'm in the market for a new toothbrush. Now, I'm a little bit fussy, and I'm probably not going to buy a secondhand toothbrush. So we had a conversation around kind of how that kind of works across the board. And so there will be some areas where, if I buy a new toothbrush over the next 3 months, it will be brand new. I'm not that's something I'm not.
But maybe we can source it somewhere.
Yeah.
Better.
So then we kind of talked about how to make that kind of sourced from.
And I think you can get environmentally friendly.
You can get bamboo toothbrushes and things like that.
So
we're going to play with it a little bit, and we're going to share some stuff around what we're doing and how that works. In some of the day-to-day practical stuff on our kind of Facebook page and in our Facebook group. So look out for some of that. And off the back of Deb's story about going to the car boot at the weekend, my story kind of unfolds from there, because we're wandering around the car boot sale, and I'm looking for a camping table. I'm going camping at the end of the month. And I'd like a camping table, and my one that I bought a couple of years ago has weathered and isn't usable. So I was looking for a second-hand camping table, and couldn't find one anywhere. Went up and down every single aisle, none to be seen. Even asked one of the stall holders if he would consider selling his table that he was showing his wares on. No, he didn't want to. It was his neighbours. So I had absolutely no luck with my my camping table, but I was there with a bit of money, and I was kind of a little bit in the mood of, I've got some money, I kind of want to spend it. And I am an avid thimble collector. I've collected thimbles since I was about 9 or 10, like at least two-thirds of my life. And I quite love the little guys, little thumb-sized ornaments, and I absolutely love them, and I'm a complete geek for them. And I keep spreadsheets about how many I've got. I look at them every time I go into my room. I look at them, oh, look how pretty that one is. And as we were wandering around the car boot, there was a lady that had a table, and she got a whole box of thimbles. Like,
you should have seen Bec's face.
We were stood there, weren't we, for quite a while, and I was rummaging through them, and I was trying to find some matching ones and asking her how much she wanted. And I kind of jokingly said to her, I'd love to just have them all. And she laughed and said, make me an offer. And she was quite serious. And so I'd wandered around the car boot for a while trying to find this camping table, and it wasn't there. So in the end I thought, I'm going to go back and see if she'll take my money off me for this box of thimbles. And we had a really lovely exchange, and I got the whole box of thimbles and a couple of thimble racks for my money. And I was quite excited. And, I was very excited. And I rummaged through the box a little, and I kind of in my mind got, it was about 40 or 50 years. So I'll go when I get home and see which ones I like. And if there's any I don't want to keep, I'll take them on to a charity shop, or in some way we'll pass them on somewhere. And when I got home, I very excitedly started laying them all out on the table, didn't I? And lining up the ones that matched and working out what I'd got.
There were some very pretty ones.
Really nice ones, and some really nice collections. And in total, there's 170 thimbles. I was absolutely amazed with how many I'd ended up with. And so what I've kind of done is gone through and decided on the ones I want to keep. And I've put those up on my wall, and I'm very excited on Monday afternoon when I've kind of banged the thimbles racks up on the wall, and they're all displayed. And then I've got about 100 and something that I'm going to pay forward. I'm going to pass them on somewhere. I'm either going to take them to a charity shop, or I do know a second-hand collectible shop in Barnstable, so I might take them there. Or if we go to the car boot at some point and sell some stuff,
do a car boot maybe.
Yeah. So that I'm going to pass those on. But it was really nice because we'd been having these conversations about kind of buying stuff secondhand and not buying new things. And then I came home with this massive box of secondhand thimbles, and I was just thrilled with them. So that was my fun, joyous living for the last week.
And that kind of goes quite nicely, I think, into our question, because it's interesting you kind of sharing about collecting thimbles and your joy at sitting at the table and looking at these thimbles. And there might be someone like that who might judge you for that.
I'm sure there will be, yeah.
So our question this week was, how can I be authentic and playful without losing the respect of other people? And what I found really interesting when you were kind of sharing that, Bec, and sharing about your thimbles, is what I have seen happening to me sometimes when I have something riding on it that the people listening to me have to like me. If I am running the story in my head, somebody might not like me if they find out I'm a thimble collector. When we did the 5-day self-love challenge, on the day when we kind of said, what is your guilty secret? Share something about you. And I shared, that I fiddle around with my hankies and things. It took me a moment to share that with people. And that was very much because I had this idea that if people find out this about me, they might not like me. And when we have that thought running through our head, sorry, I've got a bit of a froggy throat this morning. It can be quite difficult to be authentically us, because if we're just kind of sharing from our hearts, we just share beautifully from our hearts. When we're sharing through a filter of what are you going to think of me, it doesn't come out. It doesn't. Sorry, take over.
It doesn't. Yeah, when we're sharing from that space of I've got something riding on this, and the person in front of me has to like me, we're not as open and we're not as authentic. And actually, what I've seen happen is the other person can feel that.
Yeah.
Like if you're in front of a person who's kind of playing to the crowd, if you like, who's not being authentic and who's trying to make you like them, we kind of feel that and we can pull away. And I know I've had conversations with a friend of mine who is similar to that question. He can be quite playful and quite a funny person. And when he's around people and he's got a story, oh, I'm supposed to be a serious grown-up person here, he stops being so authentic. He stops being so kind of playful and funny. And you kind of get that from him. You kind of get that, he's dropped into, he doesn't want to be authentic here, or he can't find it in him to be authentic because he's concerned about what people think of him. And I think that's kind of the thrust of that question, is that we go into a conversation or an interaction with a person, and if we've got something riding on it, if it means something to us that they must like us or they must respect us, we're way less likely to be authentic and to share from the heart. And we get ourselves, I know I do it, we can get really, really caught up in, I better not say
Absolutely.
that. I better not confess to the fact that I love that I bought 170 thimbles at the week. What might they think of me? It's a bit too, I don't know, geeky, childish, silly, daft. I've no idea what people might think that is, but I know the story that can run through my head, or I can't share that because... And like Deb said, her example in the challenge last week was this, she does this slightly, unusual rubbing thing with a handkerchief. And yeah, it could be very easy to go, oh, well, that Deb's a bit weird. And who knows, maybe, in the grand scheme of things, it might be labelled weird. But when you kind of hear Deb sharing that from a place of, do you know what? There's nothing riding on it. I can tell people that I do that and they'll either like me or they won't. It's actually people respect that. That respect actually comes from, to me, respect is about knowing someone as they are and being okay with, do you know what, maybe that isn't my thing. It wouldn't be my thing to rub a handkerchief, but you wouldn't collect thimbles.
No, can't see me collecting thimbles. No, but that's cool.
And yet we can respect each other for that. It's like, do you know what? Deb's a genuine, authentic, fun, loving person. And okay, she's got something that I probably wouldn't do, but I can respect that. And I think that's where we can get quite lost is.
And the kind of how, it's like, how can I be authentic? How can I do that? And for me, all of the how-tos come back to know thyself. It doesn't look to me like it's an accident that one of the deepest spiritual teachings is know thyself, because I can see that I can share much more openly about who I am, and I can be myself way, way, way more, no matter what's going on, because I know my human side, I know my spiritual side, and I know the beautiful place of balance where these two things come together. So way, 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 way more of the time, there's nothing riding on it. I don't have this idea that if Facebook Live, if this YouTube Live, if our TV show doesn't take off, if people don't like us, I haven't got stuff riding on it. I can just show up and be me. And it's one of those things that it is a byproduct of actually touching that space some of the times. And again, this kind of loops back around this playful, get out, challenge yourself, play with this, and find this place in you. And one of the things that we've massively got going for us when we're pointing to this place within you where you are okay is, it's true. I know you have that place within you. And the more we kind of hang out there, the more we kind of see that place within ourselves. When I first kind of came across this and played around with it, I would get tiny glimpses of it, and I could look back over my life and kind of see, yeah, there's a thread that it's always been there. Now I kind of feel like I do just hang out there most of the time. And, when I'm not there, it's just like, oh, yeah, I've got caught up in my thinking again, and I will go back there. And so knowing myself, knowing that place has enabled me to show up and be way more authentic and way more playful. I mean, one of the things that we are known for is having fun, and we genuinely do. We don't kind of put this on when we do. We sit here in the office when we're here and we're laughing most of the time. It's kind of, what we got to do next? And we have fun, we play, and we're authentic. And I feel, even though there are probably plenty of people out there who don't like us, we're not everybody's cup of tea, I guess.
I'm sure that's possible.
But I guess they would have a respect for what we are doing, because, there are definitely people out in the world who maybe aren't my kind of people, but I can still respect them. I can respect their authenticity. And we find ourselves then hanging out and having fun and playing around and being in relationships, whatever kind of relationships, with people who genuinely do like us. So
yeah. And one of the things as you were talking there, that came to me was that authenticity and kind of playfulness is something that is there when everything else drops away.
Absolutely.
It's like we kind of, what we often do when I hear a question like, how can I be authentic and playful? It feels like the question is looking for an answer that says, right, you need to learn these 5 steps, or you need to add this technique to your toolbox, or you need to give yourself more to do, learn this, add this, remember this, and you feel it building up on you. Like, I feel that kind of building up on me as a pressure. Oh, I've got to remember to do this. I've got to remember to say this. I've got to remember to do it that way. I must make that joke.
Make sure my body language is right. Make sure.
And it just becomes this more to do, more on our minds. And what I see with authenticity and playfulness is actually there when all of that stuff drops away.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a letting go. It's those things that we kind of try and add to ourselves to remember to do, and to remember not to do, and to find all the steps to this one. When those things drop away, we are already authentic and playful. As human beings, we are. That's what we are. We're playful and creative and authentic.
Absolutely. And I feel that knowing the truth of who we are, that's how that stuff drops away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So hopefully that answers that question. Our topic for this week, we're on to our topic section, and our topic for this week is loneliness.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, isn't it? I've had a few conversations with people. I know we did a Facebook Live, I think, about loneliness, didn't we?
We either did a Facebook Live or we answered it as a question on one of the YouTubes. We've had a question about it recently, and we answered that question, but I think we got a bit of feedback, and some people wanted to know some more, so we thought we'd make it into our full topic this week.
So loneliness, it's one of those things, isn't it? And I don't think that there is a human being on this planet who hasn't felt lonely, who doesn't, who hasn't had that horrible, crushing feeling inside, of feeling all alone. And I think, like most of the feelings that we have that we don't like, it seems to us that there is a solution to that feeling, and loneliness would definitely be, if I was with people who loved me, or, if I had a partner, or I don't know, we can have anything, but it feels like, when we are stuck in that feeling, or when we're in that terrible feeling of loneliness, one of the things that we that I see again and again is that people feel that there is a solution to that feeling. And any feeling that we have, whether we like the feeling or whether we don't like the feeling, feelings don't have solutions to them. You know, feelings come from the thinking, the energy of thought that's passing through us in that moment, and the feeling will change. We don't need to search for a solution. And one of the things that kind of keeps us stuck or keeps us returning to these kinds of feelings is that misguided misunderstanding that there's a solution to this feeling, and if I find the solution, I won't have this feeling again. And you know, I've had a few conversations with people about loneliness, and I am in a relationship and I live with Beck and Lucy and my son Josh and my partner, and I have a daughter and I have a grandson. You know, there's lots of people in my life. And so, you know, in one of these conversations, you know, somebody kind of said, well, it's all right for you. You know, you have no idea what it's like to be lonely. But one of the things that I can actually say with hand on heart is that loneliness doesn't have anything to do with having people in your life or not having people in your life, because there are definitely moments when I feel dreadfully alone and incredibly lonely. And what I see is that I don't have to change any of my relationships to fix that feeling. What I know is that what I'm having in that moment is a lot of insecure thinking. You know, I'm having thoughts about maybe my partner's going to leave because he doesn't like me anymore. Maybe, you know, I don't know, crazy, you know, Beck doesn't like me. She much prefers, I couldn't even tell you what the thinking is, to be honest. But what I know for certain is when I go into those places of feeling dreadfully alone and lonely, which everybody does, what I know about it is that it's my insecure thinking. I don't need to fix it. It will pass. And when we talked about authenticity and how can I be playful and how can, you know, again, it looks to me like the more I know the truth of who I am, it seems that those feelings don't visit me as much and they drop away more easily.
Yeah. And what I was kind of hearing in what you're saying there was this underlying what we call separation, when you're kind of having that thinking, oh, you know, Beck doesn't like me or my partner's going to leave me or whatever it might be. What we're doing there is separating out. We're saying, oh, we're different. Beck doesn't like me. We're different. We're separate. My partner doesn't love me. He's going to leave. We're separate. We're different. And we go from this kind of place of knowing that we're connected with everyone to separating out, and then we can do it more and more and more, and the bigger that separation, the more lonely we feel.
And interestingly there as well, when somebody hasn't got a partner or hasn't got people in their life, that's one way that we say, oh, I'm different.
Oh, I'm different. Yeah, I haven't got a partner, or I'm not married, or I don't have children, or I don't live in a communal house, or whatever it might be. We just keep separating out. And as soon as we kind of go, oh, you're okay because you live in a communal house, or it's fine for you because you've got a partner, I live on my own, that's just more separation. And one of the things when we had our workshop a couple of weeks ago, we were in a room, there was a room of us, and we had a couple of people that would start to share something like, oh, you know, this happens for me and I have these thoughts and this is what goes on for me. And within, I think it was within the first
became our mantra, didn't it?
Somebody kind of said, yeah, me too. And then someone else went, we're all the same. And before long, every time somebody was sharing in a really nice, gentle way, by the time they'd finished,
we're all the same.
And actually what happened over the course of those 2 days was that everyone in the room kind of really saw that. And it might have been a slightly different flavor. Like, you know, someone might have shared, I have particular thinking about people I work with, and another person might say, oh yeah, I have particular thinking about my family. So the flavor was slightly different because we have our slightly separate human experiences, but fundamentally we were really seeing where we were all the same. Oh yeah, I have thinking and that separates me out. And in that separation and in that thinking, we might get the feeling of loneliness. That might be the feeling that comes for us. And what we really came to over those 2 days was when we get in a room, or when we have these shows, or when we have these conversations and say, oh yeah, we're all the same, that really brings us back to this place of connectedness, this oneness that we talk about. And somehow in the seeing of that, the thoughts kind of, they move on, or they drop, or we see through them, and they don't have that
and they
hold
change,
on
because
us.
interestingly, when you were talking about kind of, you know, how we can say, you know, oh, I'm lonely because I haven't got a partner, or I live on my own, or what have you, I'm kind of listening to you saying that, and I know people who haven't got a partner and they think that's the biggest asset of their life. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, I can do this, I can go here. And people who, you know, sometimes when people hear about our living arrangements, they're kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so relieved that I'm going back to my flat where I'm on my own, you know, my lovely house that's just mine, and I haven't got to please anyone else. So equally, all of these things, you can see that being on your own in any way, whether it's a moment, you know, whether you go out for a walk on your own, or whether you live on your own, it's loneliness it's not inherent in that thing. Because sometimes that thing is the most beautiful thing that you have or do, and sometimes it's the biggest pain for you.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see that the pain doesn't come from something inherently. It comes from what we think about that in that moment.
And there's always an invitation there, and this is why we do the kind of challenges and stuff.
Absolutely,
that we do.
keeps looping around.
Because we have, you know, we would have that conversation. We kind of go, oh yeah, there's been times when I've been lonely and I'm living in a house of people. Equally, there's been times when I've been single or in a house on my own and I've not felt lonely. So straight away, to me, it comes, well, in that case, like Deb said, it can't be inherent that being alone equals loneliness, because there's absolutely times when I felt lonely when I'm not alone, and equally there's been times when I'm alone and don't feel that. So it can't be inherent.
No.
So straight away, that kind of, for us, the kind of thing comes up, okay, let's explore that, let's challenge ourselves, let's see where that, you know, what's going on here. Because we can get so fixated on something being an absolute, something being 100%, and what we call a principle. We can really tell ourselves, oh, it's an absolute principle that alone equals loneliness.
Yeah, and people who feel lonely, it's because I'm on my own.
And it absolutely can't be a principle. It can't be inherent, and it can't be fixed if there's even the tiniest moment when those two things don't happen at the same time. So if you've ever had an experience of loneliness where you've not been alone, or if you've ever been alone and not experienced loneliness, there's something there that's pointing you to, maybe it's not 100%, maybe it's not a principle, maybe it's not an absolute truth that those two are connected. And for me, as soon as I see that tiniest gap that two things aren't maybe connected, that just opens something up for me.
Absolutely. And that is definitely, again, you know, the place where in my life and my experiences, when I have those things, that's where I start playing and challenging myself and the what ifs. You know, well, okay, so it looks like my loneliness is connected to this. What if it wasn't? And as soon as I ask myself that question, something opens up. And you know, the universe, whatever it is, the universal mind fills that in with something, gives me another idea of something, gives me something else. And it feels like something else can come in there, and just get playful with it. And if loneliness is something that is incredibly painful for you, maybe play with something that is a little less painful at first. Because one of the things that I've noticed for myself is I've played with things in areas, you know, that I'm not quite so attached to or upset about. And then I've seen a truth there. And then it's like, okay, so how does the same thing fit here? And it kind of loosens it a bit and makes it a little bit easier, doesn't it? Because, you know, it can be incredibly difficult when we feel lonely. You know, I don't like it when I feel lonely, I have to say.
I mean, any kind of feeling that we get where it kind of seems to hold us in its grasp,
it
can be extremely difficult. And in the midst of that feeling, for me, when I'm in the midst of that, the thing that goes on for me is really just from this space, don't do anything.
Yeah.
Because when we're in the grasp of a feeling, a particularly strong feeling, we can be very tempted to do stuff and go out and, tell that person they've done something wrong or try and fix that situation. And 9 times out of 10, good stuff doesn't come from there. All sorts can get messed up and mixed up. So for me, when I'm in the grasp of a really strong feeling, whether it's loneliness or something else, I tend to just have a tiny voice that says, just maybe don't take action from here. Somewhere in you that this passes. And kind of when that's passed, which it does, it's built into the system that it passes, or it becomes a bit lighter, or we're not quite so grasped by it. Then for me, that's where I go, okay, now I saw something was going on for me there. I'm really interested to explore with that because I didn't like it and it isn't the truth of who I am. So I want to see if there's a different experience I can have with that. And then that's where I kind of go into the right, let's challenge myself and let's see what I can do differently. Because I know sometimes we are incredible as human beings and we can do anything from any headspace. And yet for me, I quite enjoy doing it from a slightly clearer headspace. I quite enjoy allowing that real tangled feeling to just loosen a little bit before I play with it, because I know how difficult it can be in the midst of that tangle to do something that's helpful. So I just trust that in this moment, I don't need to do anything with it. And when the slight loosening or clarity kind of comes, then kind of play and challenge.
And I think one of the reasons why we do a lot around self-love is because in those moments, just be as kind and loving to yourself as you can be.
Yeah.
And across the board, just be, if others are around you for whatever reason, just if we can, just be kind to yourself. And sometimes that's quite difficult in those moments, but very much, one of the reasons why we play around with self-love, and I know that's had a huge impact on me, just playing in, and why, we had that 5-day challenge last week and we did that challenge. We took part in that challenge every day. I was looking for something beautiful. I was looking for that, that deeper place in me. I was looking for what makes me me. I love taking part in those challenges because for me, then when I have those off moments, those difficult moments, those moments when thinking that I would rather not have visits me, I've got that, I can find that place in me and be kinder and more loving to myself. So,
yeah. So I think that's our topic, loneliness.
And if anyone has got any questions or comments or anything, you'd like us to expand on anything we've said, or, you've got any comments about it, please feel free to comment below this video or get in touch with us, as we're very visible everywhere. We're, on Facebook, we have a mailing list, we put links everywhere. Do reach out to us. That's very much what we're about.
Yeah, we want to be as helpful as we can. We want to answer your questions. We want to talk on topics that you want to know a bit more about. So, flood us with your suggestions. We'd love that. So next week we're back at 5:30.
We are, yes. So we're back to our 5:30
slot. I feel like we suggested a topic for next week.
I have to confess, I can't remember.
Neither can I.
Be authentic.
We'll be authentic. We can't remember. We had got a topic in mind, but we will confirm that and we'll put it out. We always schedule these pretty much as soon as we're done with this one. We'll schedule next week's, so that'll pop up on YouTube and you'll be able to see. We'll remember what our topic was, and we'll.
Sure, we will.
And if you've got ideas over the next few weeks, we can start to put your topic ideas out as well.
And if you've just come across this video or you're watching this and you're not subscribed to our channel, so you don't miss our lives and you don't miss our other videos, because we would hate you to miss anything.
Yeah, you don't want to miss out. So just a last reminder, we've got the 90-day challenge that starts on the 12th of August. If you've got any questions before you sign up for that, hit us with those, and the link will be in the information so you can go and sign up for that. And I think that was everything, wasn't it?
I think that was everything for today. Yes, it's been really good to have you here. It's been good to have our discussion again. And as Bec said, we're around, so get in touch with us if there's anything you want to know. Subscribe, sign up,
Just join in wherever
join
you
in.
like. It'd
Join
be great
in.
to have you.
That's your challenge. Find somewhere to subscribe or sign up.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for joining us.
It was really good to have you with us.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.